Alright guys, so pretty much this is the start of the turbo kit build for the Fairmont here, and right now it's just a naturally aspirated 6-liter, but it's been running like this pretty good for a little while, and I'm going to start fabbing up the turbo kit mount. The pedestal and the merge and all that's going to be over here, but over here I'll show you all the bits and pieces. This is a cheap, it's an Emo USA intercooler. It's a 4-inch. The turbo we're using is a VS billet 80mm with a T4 or T6 divided. Some things we're going to do is we have an oil pump, a high volume oil pump we're going to do. We got some like feed line. We got some drain lines, some fuel stuff. We'll do that later. Another fuel pump. The wastegates we're using is a 44. We're going to use 2 of these. 2 44s. We got a bunch of miscellaneous stuff. We got more fuel system stuff, and there's some stuff still missing, but pretty much that's the gist of it. And I'm going to start taking this apart here, and we're going to first start with putting the oil pump in, take the front cover off and all that, and then work our way up onto mounting the big boy there. So just got the oil pump changed out, just pulled the harmonic off, and it's kind of tricky to get the pickup tube to line up, but finally got the new high volume pump in there, put the cover on. We welded a new MPT fitting to the cover there, and then I have this long -10 right there, and so that'll work pretty good for the turbo drain. Just got to tighten the cover up and stab the water pump on. But the merge collector, this is a DIY kit from Monkey Fab, and I have these V-bands here. We're going to weld some V-bands to it. Still got to figure out, I think I'm going to stagger them a little bit, but I'm going to weld some V-bands to them. I'm going to kind of maybe just bolt this to the turbo and then figure out where in the car we're going to really put it. It's going to be here, and we obviously need to cut out a bunch of metal, but I'd like to have the impeller facing through the turn signal area, so you know, end up cutting some of this out. But yeah, I'll just kind of hang the turbo here, maybe stick a manifold up here so we know what we're going with. But took the manifolds off, took all the exhaust all the way back. It wasn't much, but just took it off, and I have some manifolds I'm going to weld the same V-bands to, and with the ends cut off them. So we'll get this turbo kind of hanging where we want it with the manifold, and then start running the piping up to here. So got the turbo hung in here. Use this really jank looking piece I come up with, but that bolts over the 2 holes, and then I used a bar across the front end here. And you know, the turbo weighs like 55 pounds or something like that, so that would just hold it where I wanted it. Finally figured out that was the best spot for it. And then come under here and notch the frame rail out just a little bit so it's level with the inside. And used a piece of angle iron here, and then those 2 bolts on top of the frame rail. I'll take the turbo off and show you, but 2 bolts there, the flange bolts to that, obviously the turbo bolts to the flange, and yeah, should be pretty good. I'm gonna cut some of the stuff out in here, not a lot of it, but pretty. Grab the light here. I mean, it looks pretty easy. There's the outlet flange. Looks pretty easy to run that around and have all the piping. This is the front bumper bracket, so have all the piping run around into there, and the turbo drain. That'll drain into the frame rail. It'll clear pretty easy, so no issues there. Wow, that looks pretty cool. Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I'll pull the turbo off and weld all that stuff up, but yeah, just start running my piping from the manifold down and up to the divided flange. So this is just the mount I made for the flange. The angle iron just has holes drilled in it, and the bolts are actually just kind of like all thread and they're welded on the other side. But that's pretty much all flat against the frame rail. You see where I notched it out, and then the flange just sits right over that. So that's what holds everything together. And but like I said, I'm going to start mounting I'm going to get this flange tacked up or welded up, and then start running the pipes. So a couple hours later, a lot of fitting and trial and error. Got most of this stuff done. Obviously welded all the V-bands there and got some bends. Got these merged pieces tacked to the collector, and just a little bit of thinking. Got this thing where I wanted it to. Got these so I can split them, these pipes off, keep the turbo here, and let's see if I had to pull the motor, there's still room to do so. So still need to put my double slip joint. I'll show you that, but I'm going to trim this a little bit more and have that flow over there. It's pretty easy, just a 90. Still waiting on some V-bands to show up. The one time I put the nuts on these threaded shafts, I didn't put any anti-seize on them, and that was one too many times. So just galled up on the threads, I guess, and seized and snapped the shaft. But as soon as I put the anti-seize on the other ones, we've had them off and on. So I'll just be using these clamps to finish out that pipe. And once I finish that out, I think I'll probably do the dump tube out into the fender, and maybe we can work on a wastegate placement and stuff like that, which is just kind of in the general area. It's going to be up here, so I can change the springs out pretty easy. So that's some progress. Maybe time lapse a couple, one or two clips here. So you got the downpipe pretty much all the way done. It uses a 5-inch to 4-inch from LJMS adapter, and it's just straight 4-inch all the way down to where the fender would be. But took the fender off. It's got the side marker light that I'm gonna patch, and I already traced out where it's gonna be on the back side there, because I got this tip some stainless, some pie cuts, and it's going to come out like that, so that'll look real nice. But I'm going to patch that hole up in the fender and then just kind of go from there, cut the hole and see how it looks. So finished product on the downpipe, pretty tight up there, but it comes down here, coming out there, looks pretty good. Just sanded, patched it in like I said, but that looks pretty good, just about where I wanted it, just a little bit of poke. There is some adjustability trying to get it center, so center and having it kick out more if you wanted to, but the fender's pretty loose right there, so it doesn't really, you can get it where you want. So just working on the oil drain for the turbo one last time. Hopefully I can stop welding in this area, but it's just a -10, 45-10. A little worried about how close it is to the collector, so if anything I'll get some heat wrap for the line. I'll probably do that anyways, but just running from the timing cover that I welded on there up to here, not too far, pretty simple. So just notched, put a piece of pipe in there and notched it out so it would clear. So I'll just weld that out and be pretty much done there. So just got these 2 wastegates knocked out, mounted up, or at least tacked up. They're VS Racing 44mm, so shouldn't have any issues with boost creep or nothing. Just took a little bit to get that right, but got these both fitted here. Gonna make a dump tube extended for the higher one, but should work pretty good. Should be able to change the springs out relatively easy too if you're on the ground, so no big deal. Looks good though. So I got the front end on here, the headlights and everything, got the radiator thrown back in. Had to move the radiator over, 2 inches or so, re-weld the mounts on the bottom, and just remount the tops so it would clear the turbo. But clears the turbo just fine now. And I got the intercooler sitting up here. This is a standard size 4-inch thick intercooler, fits pretty good. Not a lot of wasted space here. I'm going to mount this up. And it should be pretty easy after that to do piping. I got a fiberglass bumper. I'm trying to make that quick release. I'm still waiting on the mounts to come in, so when those come in we can trim and fit the bumper. Should look pretty good. It's going to cover the lower half of the intercooler, but if there's any airflow issues I'll just cut some holes and stuff in the bumper, but that'll just be later on down the road. So get this mounted up and work on the piping. So got the intercooler mounted up, so it's top mounts and then these down here, and then I got the intercooler piping tacked up, just comes off the compressor, the V-band, and then there, and over here it's gonna be a coupler up in there, but it makes for a clean transition. Put a hole in it there and runs up to the throttle body, so that's pretty good and fits good, simple, all comes apart pretty easy. So pretty much other than this all being final welded out, it's done. The hot side, the cold side, downpipe, it's all done. I'm gonna paint some stuff. I got the manifolds and stuff off. I'm painting all that right now, and header wrap the downpipe. But other than that, we're going to be tackling the fuel system next. I got all new rails and pumps and lines and stuff like that. I'm going to just wrap this up. Like I said, I'm going to weld it all out and fit, I just got the oil feed and drain and stuff like that. Just some simple stuff. Might fire this up next video and just see how it sounds before we pull the whole fuel system apart. But no big deal. Just got a couple things I want to do after that. Subframe connectors, etc. So not that much, but we're going to be running and driving pretty soon. I would hope sometime in 2020, depending on when this video gets out. And then, yeah, hopefully rolling burnouts after that. So, thanks for watching, guys. See you in the next video.